Justin here, our best bud Finn, kind of hanging out on a Saturday, and I wanted to make a video to tell you kind of about my Cdory 22 cruiser, and just do a quick walkthrough video. So, when I was looking for this boat, I was scouring YouTube, and a couple walkthrough videos, but nothing that kind of had the level of detail I wanted. And also, I kind of wanted to share with everyone some of the mods I've made to this boat since I've gotten it. So, this is my 2006 Cdory 22 cruiser. Before this boat, I had a 28-foot Pearson sailboat, and I had that for, almost 5 years. And towards the end of owning that boat, I started to kind of want a boat that I could take more places, kind of get further away from my home port. I could trailer to different towns, and just do more exploring. I loved camping on the sailboat, and so one of the things I wanted in a power boat was a boat that I could spend the night on. So I started browsing the internet, kind of checking boats out, and I think I quickly realized that if there was a power boat that was trailerable, that I could also spend the weekend on, they're going to have to be pretty big, pretty heavy, and therefore pretty expensive to operate. I also drive a Toyota Tacoma, and so I needed something under 6,000 pounds total towing weight to be able to pull with that. And so that's where I landed on a Cdory. I'm totally in love with this boat. I mean, this thing, for me personally, checks all the boxes. It's a boat that's super comfortable to stay on. Totally usable year-round with this enclosed pilot house. It weighs like 2,500 pounds empty, which is just absolutely nuts for a 22-foot boat that you can sleep on. And so because of that, you're able to push this thing around with a relatively small motor. So this is a Honda 90 4-stroke. And so this boat with this motor combo can run, if it's light, just about 30 miles an hour. I think the fastest I've had it was about 32. But I'm typically cruising closer to 20 miles an hour, which is plenty fast. And it does that at like a little over 4 miles to the gallon, which just blows my mind. So I think that's such a cool thing about this boat. You get so much boat, but you can still afford to take it on long trips. So my girlfriend and Finn and I, just a couple weeks ago, we did about 350 miles on this boat, from Wilmington, North Carolina, up to Cape Lookout, and kind of motored out to the Neuse River, poked down to the Pamlico a little bit, hit up Oriental, and just stopped at a few different towns on the way. So that was a 5-day trip, 4 nights. We were super comfortable, and I think all in we burned like 70 gallons of gas, which is like just mind-blowing to have this level of comfort and burn so little fuel and cover so much ground. So I'm really digging this thing. Another cool thing about it being light is that it draws very little water. So with the motor up, here's the water line here, the boat only draws 7 inches, which is just opened up a whole new world of places that I'm able to explore. So coming from a sailboat, that thing drew 4.5 feet. You really get back into marshes and some really skinny stuff, which is really cool. So again, just opens up more room for exploration. At the same time, I can take this offshore. I can go fishing. What I really like to do is I like to take this out around our jetty here in Wilmington, out into the ocean, anchor up on the other side of the jetty, and then foil surf. For wing foil. And sometimes when it's windy, that's usually when the best windsurfing conditions are. At the same time, it's really rough, and so this boat is really seaworthy. So as long as you're willing to go slow when it gets rough, it's really stable. It's really comfortable. I hate to admit it, but I've taken waves over the bow on this thing already. And normally I'd be a little bit on edge in a open boat because waves over the bow could just absolutely swamp the boat. In this thing, you stay totally dry, and those waves just run right off the side and don't flood the boat, so it's pretty safe. And so in pretty heavy stuff, as long as you go slow, it's a pretty solid boat. But also, you can go into super shallow water at the same time, and you can do all that in comfort without burning much fuel, which is really unique. Okay, so we're going to dive into some details now. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a separate video to cover a lot of the modifications I've done. And this video is just going to focus on sort of standard Cdory stuff you should know. So let's dive in. So I was really fortunate to find this boat in my hometown. So it was only, the seller was about 15 minutes away from me. I'd been looking for this boat for about 8 months. They're not real popular down here in the south where it's hot. I think people want to use their boats in the summer, be in the sun, get out there in a bikini or something, and that's probably not the boat for that kind of use. Or this is not the boat for that kind of use. This is definitely more of a, looks more like an old man boat. But this thing is sweet. You know what? Old dudes, they've just been around the block. They know what's up. And this thing is just so practical. So even in the summertime, I'm able to open the windows up. So I can open this window up on the side, both windows. There's a screen that retracts. I can open this forward hatch on the front windshield there, and then also the V-berth hatch opens up. And just with those hatches, as long as you're moving, you get plenty of airflow to stay cool in the summer. You can also open up this back door, which maybe adds a little bit more flow. I've kind of found that it really doesn't improve the breeze as much, surprisingly, but it really does cut down on the motor noise when you close this back window. But really, this is like just an awesome all-season boat, which is why they're a lot more popular in colder climates like I'm in the Pacific Northwest and Northeast. And that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted this. So boating is just so popular here in the Wrightsville Beach area that in the summer our boat ramps are just completely swamped. We just don't have that much access to water, and we don't have that much water. And so in the summertime, it's just a total zoo. And I wanted a boat that I could take out year-round, especially in the winter when it's a little cooler, and I can have, the whole ocean and intercoastal waterway to myself. All right, some of the features of this boat, some of the things that this came with. I was really fortunate to find a boat with these options. So this really is like my dream boat. This thing has all of the options that I wanted in a Cdory. I would say the only thing maybe I would change that I wasn't totally crazy about was the color. This burgundy, it's growing on me. But I don't know, it was a little Popeye the Sailor Man at first. But everything else about this boat I love. So it came with an aluminum dual axle trailer, a Honda 94 stroke. I think when I got it, we had about 820 hours, which seemed like a lot, but people say that these motors well maintained. You can get a few thousand hours out of them. Another few things that this boat had, it has a perma-trim system, which is this plate here, in addition to electric Lenco trim tabs. This has really been something that I'm just really happy to have. The trim tabs help the boat ride flatter, obviously. So normally I'm trimming down, almost full down in cruise mode. I find that gives me the best fuel mileage. But a thing that's really nice about these electric tabs is that if you have people on the boat and your weight distribution is not totally even, you can use these to level the boat out. And I find that that's a big factor with this boat, especially because of the seating arrangement. Normally you've got one person on the starboard side, the driver, the helm, and then you can see two people or three people if you go couch mode on the port side. So the weight distribution gets a little funky. So having electric tabs really helps kind of level the boat out. Perma-trim just gives you a whole nother level of kind of trim authority. And so with this thing trimmed full down, you kind of have to go slow because it's you can push so hard down on the nose that the boat kind of feels like it wants to broach. But where I find that that's really valuable, hey buddy, here's Jay, who wants to be in the video, where it's really valuable to have that perma-trim is when you're in really rough stuff. So when you're going slow, maybe 12 knots, if you trim full nose down, it just makes the ride a lot more comfortable. So that's really cool. And in addition, this boat also has this motor mount spacer, which just helps you trim down even further. What else? Swim platform. This is key. Not all Cdories have this, but I use this a ton because I do a lot of surfing and stuff off the boat and swimming. This is a must. I know if you've got twin motors, it's a little trickier to fit a swim platform. Some people hang a ladder off the side. I know those Trip Smith videos on YouTube. He's got a ladder he hangs off the side when he swims. This swim platform is pretty clutch. All the motor rigging is kind of run pretty nicely through this grommet. I think that's kind of a standard Cdory thing. fuel selector switch. So I've got two 25-gallon tanks. So this is a cool thing about this particular boat. These are true 25-gallon tanks. Not all model years had those. So I've got 50 gallons of total fuel capacity, and then you use this selector switch over here to switch between those two tanks. Another thing that's kind of nice is I have these trim panels here. Again, I haven't seen that on every Cdory, so this must be an option, but it's got these cool little fuel windows that you can see from the helm. So if you're ever wondering how much fuel you have, you just turn around and look. It's nice because you don't have to worry about fuel sending units that get stuck. You know, I feel like fuel gauges are one of the most common things to not work on a boat. So I just love the Cdory design principle of keep it simple, keep it light. Another thing this boat has are these floorboards here. So these are a factory option, I believe. Underneath these floorboards is the actual floor, and without those you kind of have this curve that you're standing on, which isn't quite as comfortable. But when you're standing with the floorboards out, you're standing on the bottom of the hull. So one of the reasons that these boats are so light is because they don't have what do you call it? I think a cap maybe in boat building, where they have a kind of an inner hull that drops in when the outer hull is molded. And so this is the hull. So this is the outer skin of the boat. Same with the floor, same with the inside. And so because of that, you can shed a lot of weight. One thing you have to watch out with Cdories, this is a big major watch out that kind of had me stressed, was while it's a fiberglass boat, it does have a balsa core. And if you find a boat that has a bunch of fishing, accessories bolted to it, and the installation wasn't done correctly, where they seal the balsa core when you drill through the hull, you can get water intrusion, and that leads to soft spots where the balsa rots out. And if you have soft spots on a boat, that just gets it's just a pain to fix. It just is a mess. And so I was really careful when looking at these boats to check for kind of extra sort of aftermarket hull penetrations, and even the factory hull penetrations can be known to leak. So around the stanchions and things like that, if you kind of tap around here with a hammer, usually you can find soft spots or hear soft spots, but just be on the lookout for that. Another place that is bad for soft spots in these boats is the transom. And in fact, this boat, the previous owner had the whole transom redone. I think he said that was like a $7,000 job, which is crazy. So I'm grateful that he footed the bill on that one, and that wasn't something that I had to deal with. But this transom's been replaced with board, which is a composite core, and then the inside was reglassed, and they were able to kind of preserve the outside factory hull. So hopefully that's good to go for many more years now. board does not rot like balsa core would. So anyway, that's a big watch out with these boats. So when I first got this boat, it had a lot of oxidation on the hull, which is just kind of a cosmetic thing, but this is kind of where the only leftover spots I could show you as an example. And so I spent so much freaking time, like tons of time, buffing this boat. So I used a 3M heavy cut buffing compound, and then I used a big DeWalt buffer that my friend let me borrow, and now this thing is like mirror slick. I didn't buy it that way, but it was a ton of work, but it looks really good now. The only downside I'd say to doing that is, like, now you really care about scratches and stuff. So like I had an issue where my fenders, for instance, when they would rub along the side of the boat, would actually scratch up the gel coat a little bit. So I had to get these like cloth fender covers. I'm like, who am I? But anyway, it turned out really nice. Another thing I did here, we named the boat. So a buddy of mine, Jason, designed this really cool logo for me. Calypso is the name of the boat, and it's got this Cdory C, which is pretty sweet. So we kind of matched the logo to the factory one. And the name, that was kind of inspired by Jacques Cousteau's ship, his exploration rig. And so, for me, this boat is just about exploring. And so I thought that was kind of a cool name for this thing. And then you kind of stick with the Cdory Sea theme, which I dug. All right, so I think I'm going to cut to the inside next. All right, so we're inside the boat now. I've made quite a few modifications to this thing. I love mods. So too much to cover in this video, so I think I'll make another video showing you some of the mods I've made. So be sure to check that out. We've got things like diesel heater, some new floorboards, made a bunch of interior changes, electric water pumps. So I'll walk you through all those in detail, but those mods are really helpful. and fun to do. So we'll talk about that in a different video. But anyway, inside the boat, this is the cockpit area. Pretty spacious, bigger than I thought it was going to be, actually. We've got gunnel storage, or storage here in the gunnels, which is pretty handy. In this case, we've got freshwater washdown, kind of a shower, which I put in. That was an aftermarket feature. In this hatch, I have a battery and battery selector switch. This was a sealed up hatch. There's a second battery in here. And then I keep some storage or some cleaning supplies in this as well. So I've got 2 batteries, which is handy. Like I said, 2 25-gallon fuel tanks, 50 gallons total. I keep a little basket here with an anchor. This is kind of an anchor I use for mostly like for my lunch hook. If I'm going to anchor somewhere, either in heavy current or wind or overnight, I'll use the bow anchor. But it's such a pain. That's kind of one downside of this boat is it's hard to get to the front. And so this anchor is just so much more convenient to use. So anyway, I use this most of the time. I've got a bilge pump in the back. And then, yeah, this is just kind of a mini bilge back here. This is a diesel tank for my diesel heater. I'll talk to you about that in the next video. And then I also have another bilge pump inside here. So this boat has dual bilge pumps. And this takes water from the cockpit and gets directed into this little bilge here. So totally sure why Cdory did it that way, but anyway, I've got 2 bilge pumps. Really nice. So this is a 2006, and this model has the full glass door. This thing is super nice. It's like heavy glass, nice aluminum frame. I mean, like the latch, listen to this. Solid. And then there's a little latch back here, clips in place. So when you're underway and you have the door open, the door stays out of your way. Some point along the way, the previous owner put in these like fold down step things. I'm not really sure what those are for. Like maybe you're supposed to sit on them. Maybe it helps you get access to the roof. Not totally sure, but they're there. Maybe I'll remove them. I don't know. I also built, or actually kind of modified, a roof rack that was custom made for me by my friend Adam. I'll talk about that in the mods video, but that's such a key thing when you're on long cruises and you need extra storage space, or you're taking surfboards or fishing poles or whatever. I'll talk about that in more detail in my other video. Alright, let's go inside. So, kick inside here. So I'm about 6'1", and you can see there's plenty of headroom for me in here, which is awesome. I love it in this cabin. General layout, so you've got the helm. There's a dinette here, seats 2 people. This table actually can fold down, so you can undo, you can fold up this leg. There's a latch underneath there, and then that table drops in here. And then you take these 2 rear cushions and you put them in the middle, and then you've got a full-length couch. So you can seat pretty comfortably like 3 people there if you wanted, or if you want to just like sit back here, kick your legs up while you're underway, you could. Most of the time, though, I think we find that we just leave it in the kind of the kitchen table configuration. I redid the counters in this boat. Again, mod video thing. I won't talk about it here. But we do have a sink. From the factory, Cdory's come with a foot pump down here that you use to kind of pump water to the sink. There's a 20-gallon freshwater tank back here. Actually, you can see, you can monitor, there's a vent here for that freshwater tank, and you can monitor tank level through that tube. Again, super simple Cdory solution, which I did. I went ahead and upgraded to an electric freshwater pump. That's one of the first things I did. So I put a switch panel in here. You can kick on the water, turn it on and off. I've got a phone charger and a 12-volt outlet. But anyway, the dinette's super nice. Down below, got a little trash can built in here, and then there's storage, quite a bit of storage in here. Fire extinguisher, again, my diesel heater. I'll talk about that in another video. And then I've got another little storage cabinet in here. So tons of storage. Even on our 5-day trip, we had plenty of leftover storage in here. Imagine if you're doing the Great Loop or something, you can fill that up pretty quickly. More storage underneath here. And then there's storage underneath both of these seats. And then in this cabinet underneath the helm seat, this is kind of where I store tools, binoculars. I've got a power inverter, keep my drone and cameras and stuff in here. So this is kind of like my garage, and then everything in here is usually more food related. Moving forward, I'm going to keep the cabin lights on here just to help the lighting. This is the V-berth. So pretty spacious. It's got 2 long cushions and then the anchor locker up front. Again, I'm 6'1", and I think there's 6'3" of leg room here. So normally what we'll do is we'll lay with your head up here, your legs down at the bow, so your kind of legs meet at the front here. But there's plenty of room for 2 people to sleep really comfortably. And then Finn actually can curl up between us right here. I think there's more room in the V-berth of this boat than there was on my 28-foot sailboat. So surprisingly comfy. I've got cabin lights here and here, like reading lights, I guess. And then a hatch forward that you can open. And then this is just storage for the anchor light that goes on the roof and clip in. And then if you lift this cushion up here, I've got a porta potty toilet thing. This is just a Vivor toilet. This was like $100 or something. Haven't really had to use it much, but I suppose it could come in handy if you really need it. And then it just stashes away down here in this cushion. There is not storage underneath of these V-berth cushions. So beneath these V-berth cushions is just glassed in and it's filled with foam for buoyancy. So if you were to sink, I guess the boat doesn't totally sink. I have seen lots of people on like the Cdory forums where they remove that foam and then they put hatches in here for even more storage. Maybe I'll do that one day, but for now, I'm pretty happy with the amount of storage we have. Another thing that's up here in this V-berth is all the wiring for the helm. So I love mods, as I've alluded to, and so adding like electrical things to this boat, doing the wiring is really easy because there's just so much access. So Cdory does a really good job of kind of keeping the wiring clean, and then all of the wiring is exposed. So the wiring runs through this loom here, and then they do, stuff like this where they just have the wiring run along the inside of the cabin. So it's really easy to access all the wiring. And so if you ever needed to do any repairs on the water or troubleshooting, you don't have to like fish wires through the bilge or whatever like you would on a typical boat. And then this cover just snaps back in place. I think there's one more snap here. Yep. Anyway, pretty sweet, pretty simple, and just there's no frills in this thing, which in a good way. Okay, so now we'll talk about the helm area right here. This seat back folds down. One of the things I'm planning on doing is modifying this bracket so that the seat can fold completely down, and then I'll put a cutting board here, just as like an extension of the galley. But comfy driver's seat. The floorboard here, there's more storage in here, so I keep first aid kits and spotlights and stuff like that in here. And then at the helm itself, this boat came with hydraulic steering, which is pretty sweet, so that's an aftermarket deal. Really like buttery smooth to turn this thing. We've got controls for the electric Lenco trim tabs, compass, voltmeter. This is a temperature thermometer for inside and outside temp, trim gauge, tachometer, and then the switch panel. So we've got the horn, anchor light, running lights, cabin lights, and then wipers, which is a fun little party trick. But those actually do come in handy when it starts to rain or you take some spray when you're offshore or something. I also have independent controls for bilge pumps. So this is my forward bilge pump. It's on auto typically, but if I wanted to kick it on in the manual, I could and override the float switch. I also installed a control for the aft bilge pump in the stern. Again, manual, auto, and just off. This is a switch for my cabin heat, so this kind of arms my diesel heater system. And then I've installed courtesy lights all around the boat. I'll cover that in more detail in my mods video. And then got a 12 volt outlet here, which I've got a USB charger that I use to charge an iPad or a tablet that sits here. So I've got a tablet mount that you can use to run Navionics. That was a really great app, by the way, if you're going into uncharted waters, unfamiliar waters. That was super handy to have in addition to your GPS system. This is a cool Garmin multifunction display. It's got nav, it's got sonar, it's got like a side scan sonar feature, which is pretty cool. And then you can also hook in, what do they call it, NMEA 2000 accessories. So there's like all kinds of like electronic devices that can network into this. So one of the things I have done is I've installed a fuel flow sensor in the fuel line going to the engine, and so I can monitor my fuel burn rate, and then I get real-time miles per gallon measurements on this unit, which is pretty sweet. And then having the Garmin chart plotter in addition to Navionics was really handy, because in some places, there were some places up near Cape Lookout that we went to where the sand clearly moves around a lot, and so seasonally the sandbars will change. And if you see a difference between your Garmin map and your Navionics map, maybe you should slow down and take that one easy, because that could be just an area that's subject to shifting sand. So really helpful to have kind of redundant GPS on that trip. This is the throttle for the Honda motor. Pretty standard stuff. The key, push to choke, and then I've got this weird little safety lanyard switch, which in a boat like this doesn't make any sense. One time we were out on the water, and this switch had come loose like this, and the motor wouldn't start, so we had a little bit of a scare until I realized that needed to be fully clipped in. I may try to override that at some point in the future, just to kind of reduce any other extra failure modes or complexity. And then I've got a little fold-up cup holder back here, kind of handy for the captain's seat. This boat does have electric windshield wipers, like you saw. I think a lot of Cdories also have like a manual version with a little lever down here. This forward hatch opens up, lets a lot of breeze in, and then these side windows also, there's a screen, and then the side glass opens and closes here. Up top, there's a cool little shelf that you can store stuff in. I don't really have a lot going on up there. I do have my VHF mounted here, and then I've got a little battery-operated fan that I use mostly in the summertime. Over here on the port side, we've got a radio. So that's a new radio I installed. This box was always here. I may move this whole box like up into this area or something, just to open up this space for storage. And you don't really need this waterproof cover thing in a enclosed boat like this, so it just makes it kind of a pain to get to and adjust the radio. Got two speakers in the cockpit, in the cabin here. One there for the stereo system. And I also installed a speaker there and a speaker there outside, so you've got sound in the cockpit area when you're pulled up to the beach. You can listen to your tunes. What else is going on? Got a carbon monoxide detector, since we have a diesel heater, just in case there was like an exhaust leak or something in the middle of the night while you're sleeping. That'll alarm you if we've got any CO building up in the cabin. And that's pretty much it for the inside. Just really practical, really functional, and pretty minimal, but still comfortable. Like I said, I love this thing. All right, we're back outside the boat again with our sidekick Finn. Say what's up to everybody, buddy. And we're kind of wrapping up this walkthrough, but I wanted to touch on a few things up front here. So this is the bow of the boat. One of the downsides of this boat, so I've raved about all the good stuff, but I will say one thing that's kind of annoying with this boat is if you ever want to drop the bow anchor and you don't have a windlass like me, I don't have a windlass, you've got to monkey your way up to the bow, walk along the gunnels here. There are handrails that you can reach onto, which are handy, and then drop the anchor from up front. So it can be kind of a pain if you're by yourself, especially if you got to pull the anchor in heavy wind or current. It's like, you can't really motor up onto the anchor because it's just so difficult to race back and forth from the bow to the helm. I've tried a couple different things, like putting it in gear, running up on the anchor, and then climbing up through this forward hatch, but all of it's kind of a pain. So I would say that is a downside of an enclosed boat like this. And then the same can be said for when you're docking the boat. You really just got to think ahead, check the wind, check the current, because you don't have the luxury of just pulling up to the dock and reaching out to fend yourself off the dock from the helm. Again, because you're inside, so you can reach this midships cleat from the helm here, which is kind of nice, but really you just got to make sure that when you're coming into a dock, you know what you're doing, and you don't come in too hot, because you just can't easily reach out to fend yourself off or tie up quickly. So not a huge deal. You just got to make sure you come in with a plan. And then I've upgraded to a, what is this, an 11-pound Guardian aluminum anchor, which is I think 1 or 2 sizes bigger than a boat of this weight. But with the pilot house and the extra windage, and then the fact that I like to anchor up offshore in heavy wind to go wing foil, foil surf, it's nice to have the extra peace of mind. I think I've got 20 feet of chain in this as well. And then there's an anchor tensioner here, and then there's this little deck pipe that you can slide this over, that you run your anchor line through. A little bit of pain when you're pulling up a whole bunch of anchor lines to stuff it all down into this small deck pipe. So if you're Cdory shopping and you find a Cdory with a windlass, I think that would be a really convenient feature to have. A windlass would be a game changer. Otherwise, anchoring off the bow is a little tricky. So as I mentioned before, that's one of the reasons I like to use the anchor in the stern more frequently. If I'm not going to be anchoring, like I said, in heavy wind or overnight or something, I'll throw a lunch hook out with that anchor. I've also seen in some YouTube videos, like that guy Trip Smith, he's got a clever way of deploying an anchor where he deploys the anchor from the stern, and then he walks the anchor line up to the bow, threads it through his roller. I might try that one out, but I kind of like being able to store my anchor rod in the anchor locker and keeping the anchor mounted up on the bow pulpit. So anyway, that's kind of the walkthrough of the boat. I don't think I missed anything, but feel free to leave any questions or comments in the comment section below this video. And again, I'm going to do another video that talks about a lot of the modifications I made to the boat. That's going to be a really cool one. I've got some really handy tips and some cool gadgets and accessories that have made using the boat, and especially staying on the boat, just a lot easier, more comfortable. Yeah, so keep a lookout for that video. I may try to link it down in the description of this video so you can jump right to it. But thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you out on the water for some adventures. Thanks. All right, we just got to the boat ramp. We're in the tie down lane right now. Still hooked up to the truck. Just throwing some fenders out, getting it ready to splash here. One of the reasons I love this boat so much is because we're at the Wrightsville Beach boat ramp right now, off season. Look at how empty it is. No one wants to be out. It's kind of cold, kind of windy. We got this place all to ourselves. We're gonna be warm and toasty in this thing, super comfy. And then also check out all these boats waiting for the bridge. We got some big trawlers, some snowbirds heading south. All right, rig this thing up and let's launch. We just had an old man over here stop by and give us some props. Old dudes love this boat. Chicks, maybe not so much, but the old guys, they're all about it. All right, I think we're rigged up. We got the fenders out. We got dock lines on. Plug is in. Safety chain's on. First mate Finn, you ready to splash, dude? Let's go launch her.